Yes, this is Ben Ikari, and today I am going to briefly, or call it summarily, lay out 7 ways to stop or reduce corruption to the barest minimum and violence in Nigeria. And that is if the government and people are honest and serious. Of course, very drastic measures have to be taken, okay? Because corruption has eaten deep. If there is anything more than deep, call it the deepest in the Nigerian system. The country as a whole has been eaten the deepest in its deepest bones has corruption gone. Therefore, these 7 ways, which may not augur well with many or some, but if Nigeria must change, must move forward in a positive direction from the quagmire that it finds itself, from the pain, from the sorrow, from the depth of criminality that is hard to be liberated from or redeemed out of, if it must change for good, then these 7 measures. 1, the mindset of the people must change. It is a mindset thing. It is something that has to do with the mindset of the people, the psychological framework of the people, because it is the people. Those who are politicians today, those who are leaders today, they started as children. They grew up in a system that has been set up, of course, a system that was imposed, a borrowed system, an imperialistic system. Of course, we know the story, how rogue British imperialists, the colonial masters, concocted the concept Nigeria and imposed on unwilling people. Okay? Unwilling pre-colonial independent peoples, because the people in Nigeria are not one people. Of course, they are all Africans. That's one village, one community, one entity. But in terms of the imperialistic divide, the arrangement, the people of Nigeria are not the same people. The country has a little over 250 different ethnic groups with different languages, different cultures, and tradition. There is nothing specifically Nigerian culture or Nigerian tradition or Nigerian language. Of course, the common lingua franca, official language, is English, the colonial imperial masters' language, which I am speaking because it was imposed on me. Okay? And of course, an indirect way of killing my own language, the Ogoni language. All right? And so, to the point, the mindset of the people must change from getting rich to collectively creating a society where everyone is respected as human beings and all rights granted to everyone as equal partners or stakeholders And this includes the emphasizing the deceptive get rich by prayer or via God's blessings syndrome, which is synonymous to churches in Nigeria and, of course, all across Africa. Okay? That's number one. Of course, we can discuss it later deep, but this is the framework. Two, there is need to build an imaginative mindset so that deep or deeper, even the deepest and critical thinking, which leads to creativity and seeing what's possible, how to making things possible, shall emerge. That's number two. Number three, there is need to destroy the colonial mindset, colonial mentality that espouses forceful removal, aka stealing of what does not belong to you at gunpoint, and even kill if you have to, destroy to sustain the loot. Everyone, irrespective of status or office, must be subject and not be above the law. Your office, or as the federal government, such power and influence must not grant you special hand to conscript or steal other people's properties, but must abide by the laws of the land, collectively written by the peoples and not the current imposed constitution, imposed military constitution that favors certain people or groups, entities over the majority of citizens. And this is despite the amendments, some of the amendments that have been made during the so-called civilian regime that is not civil, that corruption has eaten the deepest, a system where the rule of law is not followed. People are ordered by the courts to be released from prison, held by the state, political opponents, and all of that, those they disagree with, but they refuse. For instance, Mr. Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB, and recently the most recent or immediate past governor of the central bank. And so the rule of law must prevail if corruption must be defeated, killed, or reduced to the barest of minimum. 4, there is need to invest in the people, the youth and women in particular. As grown men can always find their own way, but legal ways as prescribed by law. Of course, men should also be invested in. Overall, building human capacity empowers the people to be and do their best. And guess what? Nigerians are some of the most talented and creative people on earth. But the ill-informed and corrupt leadership, which lacks managerial competence, have kept most talent buried. This can and must change. 5, all civil servants in managerial, say presidential, legislative, and judicial, call it supervisory and coordinating positions, and those in non-profit civil society organizations must declare their assets before assuming office. 6. There is need to seize all assets, including landed physical structures, properties, and money belonging to any government and non-government officials, past or present, whose incomes from work and publicly registered business ventures does not match their wealth. And then there is need to make such assets seized public property. Number 7, which is the last but not the least, there is need, obvious need, to cut off the actual source of corruption if corruption in Nigeria must be dealt with, must be dealt the devastating blow that it deserves. There is need to stop the extraction of oil, crude oil, and processing of natural gas. Of course, oil in Nigeria, which is supposed to be a blessing, is a cause in the country. It is also the cause of violence. Oil, it is the cause of violence. Not only are companies such as Shell that came as a colonial vehicle, robbery vehicle, stealing the oil. I mean, those in power have been in collaboration, off record, in constantly stealing this oil that is, of course, Niger Deltas and not Nigeria's. No country by the name Nigeria own any piece of land except the piece of land which it bought and is not to public knowledge, or is to public knowledge but not to my specific knowledge. No country by the name Nigeria owns any oil in Nigeria but the people of Niger Delta, and I will come to that. Therefore, to stop this corruption and violence, oil extraction has to be stopped. If you follow, you see that there are things that have to be done before you get to the 7th point. That means you need to use some of the resources of oil to set up these other steps before you get to where the oil should be cut off, because there's nothing they can do that would stop corruption so long as the oil continue to flow. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing that can be done in Nigeria, because the theft is more like a syndicate. It is both national or local and international conspiracy. The conspirators, they form a formidable front, powerful front, and can do away with anybody trying to meddle. But if the people are ready, if the people are willing, if the people are tired of the suffering, they can make this happen, because the people of the Nigerian state, like any other people, are the possibility. Nothing is impossible. The possibility is always there because the people are the possibility. The human spirit, human ingenuity brings possibility. So the Nigerian people can do it because the people are the possibility. So it is possible. Let's move further. Let the people of Nigeria, most of whom are very talented, as mentioned, use their talents, think, and be imaginative, create, organize with government, and make the country sustainable, like many countries of the world which have no oil or natural gas, but are better organized, developed, and successful. They earn more respect than Nigeria. Therefore, the country may redirect focus only where necessary. It doesn't have to. Because the economy today, those that survive are imaginative economies. They are economies that use the power of the brain, imaginative power, which allows the human spirit to create. Okay? So, Nigeria can redirect its focus to the extraction of solid minerals such as gold, coal, and columbine, iron ore, phosphate and salt, lead and zinc, glass sand and bitumen, clay, bentonite and diatomite, limestone, margensite and uranium, dolomite, granite, tertium and tantalite or tantalite, marble, cotton, and gemstone, which are currently extracted largely within the northern and some southeastern parts of the country by individuals provided license and who pay taxes, sometimes nothing, to the federal or state governments where they are located. So, the current 36 states of Nigeria, if not dissolved, because it is not done fairly, it is not balanced, it was done by military fiat to benefit the officers, high-ranking officers who controlled the military from the northern part of the country to the west and the southeast, which is, of course, the Hausa Fulanis, the Yorubas, and the Igbos. And so, if these 36 states are not dissolved for equitable management, for efficiency, and that is by way of returning to confederacy, then these states must get to work. They must stop sharing money from oil and start using their brain, the power of the brain. If you feel it is good to have a state, then you have to have what it takes. You have to be willing, just as it is done in other federations, workable federation, such as America, for instance. The states use whatever they have, whether it is mineral or human resources, because human resources, as I have said, referencing the talents that abound in Nigeria, human resources are the most resources of any country on earth. So, in America, for instance, the federal government don't control oil in Texas, the state of Texas extract the oil and pay taxes to the central government. So, and it works. It makes the system efficient, even though not perfect. It is way, 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 way better, to the extent that it of course attracts people from all over the world. People dying to go to America. Of course, a lot of Nigerians, they can tell you the story even more, you know. And so that has to be done. The current 36 states must stop sharing oil money and go to work, use their brain, create more to the benefit of all in the state, and you pay your taxes to the center. That is, of course, a true or proper federation. It could also go into confederacy, which has been practiced in Nigeria before. Right? Because these states, the governors and others that manage or manages the states, largely steal the money. They mismanage the money that they collect by way of sharing every month. No economy can survive like that, by just sitting and sharing. A little over 90% of Nigerian states, these 36 states, cannot create a monthly budget if they stop sharing this oil money. And then the large chunk of the money goes into the pockets of officials. Billions are stolen and mismanaged every month and every year and every decade. So this must stop if the country must move forward. The importance of work, the importance of creativity, the importance of talent, skills must be introduced, must be inculcated into the fabric of the nation. Of course, it was better, even though some people are criticizing the military, and I am one of such persons who would not have any good thing to say about the military because of what the military did to the Ogoni people. When Ken Saro-Wiwa led the Ogoni people, and we asked the question of why is the federal government and Shell stealing our oil resources and polluting us, he was murdered by hanging. The story is known. He was murdered alongside 8 others, who were trumped up alongside him just to get him out of the stage, thinking it would be possible for them to just return back to Ogoni and start collecting the oil. Right? And so that's it with the oil. I mean, I can still go on a bit in terms of the oil. The oil should be left in the ground, and the federal government has to come clean as to who really owns the oil, misnamed Nigerians. Of course, we know that no country, rogue British contraption by the name Nigeria, has any oil. There is no such country by the name Nigeria that has any oil. No such country has gas, except, as I said earlier, the lands the government may have bought, and not to my knowledge. The owners of the oil land and the owners of the oil, who are Niger Deltans and misnamed minorities, as a way of stealing from them and subjugating them. These great people of Niger Delta region, whose land have been exploited, resources stolen by a combination of forces, criminal foreign oil companies such as Shell, as I said earlier, that came as colonial robbery vehicle, and the Nigerian government. So, The land, oil, and gas owners are largely forced to live in highly toxic hydrocarbon charged environment where degradation and want, pain, and death are the benefits mostly imposed than the truths by these forces of evil. Meanwhile, most stable economies that have been sustained rely on creativity. They are imaginative, thus have productive and positive ideas. And these include those that have oil and other mineral resources. Nigeria is the only country, if I'm not mistaken, with the amount of oil and gas deposit or reserve. And not only is it severely corrupt with brazen official and corporate criminality, but also dangerously underdeveloped. This can change, and it can begin with all of the above, including the stoppage of oil and gas extraction, or reasonable quantities of gas could be extracted for energy purposes. Having leadership and followership that is informed, knowledgeable in national and global affairs, and determined to take risks by taking hard decisions is in the highest of demand. Okay? And this would help such endeavor become successful. It will not be easy. There shall be discomfort, yet the benefits will grant the people long deserved and anticipated fresh air. Nothing good comes easy, but everything destructive, as synonymous with Nigeria, are at fingertips. They are at fingertips. It's easy to destroy than to build, than to develop, than to create. So, Nigerians can do it today and smile, be happy and sustain the happiness and growth tomorrow. If, to the contrary, then the theft or loots, insecurity, violence, and destruction, shame shall persist, though good for the politicians and rulers, and bad for the country and majority of citizens. Thank you. Ben Ikari.